I would go through so many different changes and challenges in relationships. I didn't have healthy relationships, I don't think, up until, well, now with my current husband. The whole way to the car, I could feel it, and I was really nervous. And so on the drive home, he tried to exit the car, tried to put my head through the window.
With your kids?
With my kids in the back seat.
Yeah, I just got chills. Like, oh.
Yeah, it was something that I would have to actually battle CPS for like a year straight. When you know that you need to work on receiving, that means that you're at the next level and you're ready to up level.
Okay.
Because in order to get to that next level of success, you have to be really good at receiving, because you can't do it by yourself.
Welcome back to the Unveiled podcast. I'm your host, Meagan Murphy, and today I'm here with Candice Van Dertholen. Hello.
Hi, Meagan. It's
How
so
are
great to be here with you and just our divine meeting and all of the things.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about how we were synchronistically hooked up at the Tachyon Chamber one day, and you came out and something, what was it? Like, you said something about how you're learning how to be seen or something like that. And that's exactly what I'm going through right now, like doing this podcast and everything. So yeah, it was just great to meet you, and we clicked instantly. And
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
It was like and that's kind of how all of my divine passings, I guess, or connections are. There's never like you can't explain it, almost, the synchronicity behind the meetup. And that's what I love about my life, is like I live that every day now.
The guided life in a way. That's how I look at it. Yeah.
Like even this morning, I was finishing up a run and I was guided to run on a different route at the end. And I have the penny moments thing. And so I go around the corner and I intuitively knew I was going to find a coin. I just knew it. And I did. I found a dime. And it was just interesting because it was two things. It was about being not only on the divine path, but then listening whenever you feel called to do something. And penny moments for me, and I don't want to go into the whole story, but it's the divine messages and guidance that are available for us every time we're open to receive.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm learning how to receive this year. That was my word for the year.
Receiving is so challenging.
Why?
Because we weren't taught how to do it. That's why. But see, receiving is when you know that you need to work on receiving, that means that you're at the next level and you're ready to up level.
Okay.
Because in order to get to that next level of success, you have to be really good at receiving, because you can't do it by yourself. You just can't. Like, you need the connections, you need the community, other people, practitioners in your corner. Like, you have to have support when you're up leveling because of the energy capacity that you have to hold.
I've never heard anybody say it like that. That was beautiful. It was like perfect. She's like, yes.
One for me.
Now, you have like a fascinating past. Please take us back to when you were, 19 when you became a mama?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us everything about who Candice is before she started walking this path, and what led you there.
Well, and I do want to say, like, the reason why I'm so open with sharing my past is because I want to show the transformation on the other side. Because I have been through so many hard moments in life and challenges and unknowns, actually. But yeah, I was 18 technically when I had my first child. I turned 19 2 months later and had zero idea what being a parent was like. Then soon after, I would have my second child. And then by the time I was 22, I was married and divorced and single with 3 children under the age of 4.
Oh my God. Like that alone, because I have one son and I have an active partner that takes care of him. Even he's amazing with him.
Yeah.
I could not even imagine what it's like to be a single mother at that age, that vulnerable age, and having to do it all on your own. Like that would have drove me to the insane asylum, I think. But
well, and there were moments where it felt like that. You know, when so I lived in Tennessee at the time, and then I would move back to where my family is in Texas. And so I only lived with my grandparents for like a month, and then I got my own place because I was like, I can't do this. I love them, but they're older, and little kids make a mess. And So I got my own place. And while I had a little bit of support from them as far as like babysitting here and there, because I waited tables and I worked at the gym. So I always had 2 jobs.
Yeah.
I didn't start out working at the gym right away, but being back home was the challenge because there was a reason why I left. I left because I was, such a teenager who went through so many challenges, and I don't want to dive into that necessarily, but I left for a reason, and it caused me to go right back into an old identity.
Oh, God, this is exactly what happened with the move.
Yeah.
See the mirror moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, my move fell through. My move fell through, and I was like all ready to be in the new energy and the new identity, and I'm doing it and all this. And then boom, it falls through. Identity death happened.
It does.
This month for me. And so I totally get, I knew this was going to be a mirror one big time.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Well, no, that's great to hear because I think people need to hear that. Like, I think going back to where you originated is it's a challenge, especially if you're on a healing journey and you get to a certain place where you feel so good about yourself, and then going back into an environment that didn't support it to begin with.
So hard.
Oh, so hard. I mean, I remember going back as a single parent. Now, mind you, I grew up in a very conservative Christian home. And so we went to church Sunday, Wednesday, any day that it was open. And so when I get back, I'm trying to figure out where I fit into that community because I'm not in the college group. I'm in the mom group, but not this. There's a single mom group, but they finally built a single moms group, but they put it in the basement of the church in like the back corner with, I think, like one hallway light on. And I was just
gosh.
like literally could not have put us in the corner.
It's awful.
And so like good intentions, executed not so great. So there was just so much judgment, so much judgment around being a single parent. I constantly felt like I had to explain myself because I did have 3 kids and they are really young. And I was like, yeah, no, they're all the same dad. And like, we didn't work out. And especially in Texas because they judge so much.
But it's like a Bible Belt.
It is.
State. Yeah.
Oh, yes, it is. It's very. And, again, it is the way that they live. And that's how I see it now. But back then I was just struggling with my mental health and keeping it in. And I had already struggled as a kid. I just early onset depression and anxiety and never really got help. We didn't talk about that kind of stuff at least in my generation. And so it would just be this perpetual cycle of not recognizing that I didn't know who I was. I was still living for everybody else's external validation and thinking, okay, I got to get the big girl job. So I get the big girl job. Well, then I get laid off from the big girl job. And it was like, oh my gosh, my whole world was just constantly turning. And, when you look at the energy of things, I can look back and think, wow, the reason why it felt so chaotic is because growing up, that was the energy in my home. It wasn't like I was, I always had my needs met. Everything was good. My mom was a nurse. My dad was a server. They just were never home. So
That's how I was too.
Yeah, they both worked at night. And then my mom worked overnight. And so I just never really saw them. And then when I did, they did not like each other. So it was a constant battle of just energy that is unpredictable.
Right.
And so I grew up really hyper independent, hyper vigilant at that, and just kind of figured it out, like, which has been my whole life mantra. Like, even I do it today. Like, I accredit my childhood for me being where I am today, because if I hadn't been so like figure it out or
driven and independent,
I wouldn't be doing the things I'm doing today. And, just to kind of, fast forward the timeline, I would go through so many different changes and challenges in relationships. I didn't have healthy relationships, I don't think, up until, well, now with my current husband. And it was just this constant feeling like I had to give more to the other person and take care of things and do everything. And I still had to be independent. Like, nobody can pay for me. I got to do it.
This is like I'm looking in a mirror right now, like talking to me. This episode is sponsored by Torchbearer Tachyon, a divine portal for peace based in Charlotte, North Carolina. They offer 1-hour nervous system resets, available both in person and remotely, designed to bring you into alignment physically, mentally, emotionally, and energetically. If you're feeling called to reset and recalibrate, You can experience it for yourself at a discounted rate. Listeners of The Unveiled receive 20% off your first session, bringing it from $111 down to $88.80 when you use code UNVEILED20. Book your session at torchbearertachyon.com today.
There was a time I was working for Ferguson Supply, and then the housing crisis happened in 2008. So I left what was stable for me to go appease my family to have like a big girl job. And I went through a spiral because I couldn't go back to my old job because they'd already filled it. I actually trained the person coming in. So it was like, what am I going to do? And I hit this really big depression. And it would take me about a year of like just figuring it out. I think I worked at like a couple of different places and went back to waiting tables eventually. And then I ended up at the movie theater. And I was just like, yeah, this is okay. And I'm a manager and it's cool because I get to see Avatar like 87 times. But it wasn't fulfilling.
Right.
And there was like a little bit of a hostile environment there. But so one of the coworkers was like, you should go work at the prison. Like, why don't you do that? It pays well and you work 4 days and you can have 4 days off. And I was like, why not? So I didn't even think about the danger. So this was a max security prison system. So level up to 5, which means they've done the things. They're not just there because they're, running a red light drunk. And so it was a really intense environment. And I just remember I felt so a part of something though, because when we went off, we did 8 or 9 weeks of training, on the job training out at a unit. So they call it the farm because it was like a transfer unit. So people are basically going home. So it's a little bit lower risk for us to be training. And you stay kind of like at a dorm, but like the most important thing is you cannot lose your key and you can't leave anything out because everything's still contraband. Well, we arrive and it's this big snowstorm that happens. And I had the minivan because, mom life. And I'm like, okay, let's go do a Walmart run. And so we all go do that. We come back and I can't find my key.
Oh, gosh.
I am like bawling my eyes out, digging in the snow. And I was like, okay, I did like 30 minutes of this. They said to contact the person. I'm going to contact the person. So I contacted the person. They said, we'll see you in the morning. And I was like, I'm going to end up going home. I just quit my job. What am I going to do? So they pulled me in this little room and they said, we appreciate you coming to us right away. Like losing your key is a big deal. And we want to know that we were testing you because somebody turned it in right away.
Oh.
And so because I had integrity and I just told them the truth, they actually brought me in as the squad leader and announced it right then. So it was like, I was like, oh my gosh. And so we led 67 cadets through the training. And it was an interesting time. I came up with the phrase, through our diversity, we are unified. Because there were so many different cultural backgrounds and we were trying to mesh together. And my job was to get us through. Like I was there to help people study for their tests and do the firearms training and help wherever, which I didn't know any more than they did, but to encourage, like my job was to encourage them to finish. And so all of us except for 2 finished, and it was just personal reasons for the people who didn't. And it felt really good and it was exciting. And I was like, yes, I am a part of something. I'd wanted to go into the military as a young teenager. And so when that fell through, this was the second best thing, or so I thought. And then you get onto the job and it's just so different. Now, I'm always big on saying I don't have a lived experience of loss from someone that's there. So I want to make sure to say that. When I was there, however, it didn't seem like there was a purpose behind being there. Right. Watching people from a psychological standpoint just deteriorate and fight one another. It was just the energy and all the things. And I would actually get really sick from being there. So one of the other things is in Texas, they don't exactly have air conditioning anywhere in there. They might have had to change the regulations now that it's getting warmer. But at the time, like it was hot overnight and I developed such bad anxiety that I passed out twice in general population. And so I became a risk and they had to put me on medical leave. And I was like, they were like, when you get cleared, you can come back. And I was like, I'm taking it as my signal not to come back. Right. Because I have a cousin who ended up working out there and he still struggles to this day from just PTSD from the inmates. And Yeah.
just being in that energy is
Mm-hmm.
a job in itself. Being able to keep yourself
Yeah.
regulated.
Mm-hmm.
Because
there was zero
especially being an
regulation.
empath, I'm sure you
Mhm.
are, because
Yeah.
everything you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the
I
cats
mean,
there were a little bit.
Cats?
Yeah, they have cats in the unit. They just let them
They're allowed
roam
to have
around.
cats?
Well, they don't like get to go inside, but they're outside, and
I
yeah.
would have never thought that. That's pretty interesting.
Mhm.
And you know, they say cats are healers. So,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. They were definitely different. So that's
Wow.
all I know.
That is so wild.
Yeah.
So you left there and you got remarried?
So I left there, and let me just think of the timeline. So it would be a couple more years before I would get remarried. I would, date random people here and there. But when I met my second spouse, we met at the pool. We were playing with the kids, and everything seemed great. He was a previous paramedic and firefighter, and I was like, oh, I got the handsome guy that used to wear the uniform. This is amazing. And everything went really well until there was just like several different moments where he would get jealous, or I would notice, he would just kind of act different. And I was unfamiliar with PTSD at the time, just not being familiar with the environments of it, which is a whole story later I can tell you. But essentially what would happen is we would all be at a gathering and taking the kids to a water park. Now, as a single parent, that was a big deal. My mom bought tickets, and it was like, oh my gosh, I get to go take my kids to this cool thing. And he just got completely drunk. And I got really angry, and I, in the moment, called him my kid's father's name. And he shot up really angry, and we ended up having to leave the park, and it was so embarrassing. It was mortifying, first of all, because Amarillo is not a big city, but then the whole way to the car, I could feel it, and I was really nervous. And so on the drive home, he tried to exit the car, tried to put my head through the window.
With your kids?
With my kids in the back seat.
I
Yeah,
just
it
got
was
chills. Like, oh.
Yeah, it was something that I would have to actually battle CPS for like a year straight over. It was awful. Because I was the driver, because I put them in the situation. It was a whole thing. Like, Texas is really strict about everything.
Unbelievable.
So, well, I mean, it gave all of us an opportunity to get therapy. So I will say that was the bonus, is like the kids really did need the therapy, because that was a very traumatic event. And so, I dropped him off and took my kids straight over to my grandmother's, called the cops, called his mom. And by the time I got back, the paramedics were there, because he had attempted the first time to take his life. And so it was like a whole thing. And
because you were leaving?
Because I was leaving.
Yeah.
So he would then get out of the picture. He had a DUI in his past, so it revoked his probation. And so he ended up having to go away, which was great for me, because then I just could do my thing and kind of get away from him until it came time for him to get out. And then he was trying to, connect back. And I was like, look, no, like I'm sorry, I have to choose my children over you. Well, then everything was, I just had gotten a new place, and I had it all set up, and the kids are, getting their stuff situated back in there. And a friend of mine called to pick her up from a local bar because she had been drinking. And I go to pick her up, and she's like, no, just stay. We'll hang out. We'll have fun. And I was like, okay, like, I don't have the kids. Like, why not? I'll just have a drink. And so I had a couple of drinks, and it was time to go. She didn't even leave with me. She left with some guy. And so I'm driving home, like, texting her. This is one of the reasons why I'm really, like, big on trying not to text while driving. I might do a voice memo, but because I dropped my phone in my console. So I go to lean down to pick it up, and I ended up in a median.
Oh, my.
And thank goodness there was no other people involved or anything. But I totaled my vehicle, and so that took away my transportation for my kids. Like, it took away everything all over again. And the only person I could think of in that moment, because I was so mortified and scared, was him.
Oh, no. Now the cycle.
Yep. And
got
so
picked back up the loop.
The cycle came back in. My grandmother would then take the kids with her, because I didn't have a vehicle. I didn't have a way to even get them to school. And
so your grandma ended up taking care of the kids for a while. Oh my gosh.
Which made me feel like a big failure. It's one of the things that is so hard to share. You understand as
I
a
totally
mom.
understand.
Yeah.
I understand. I have been having problems with my son the past week, and I know how bad it hurts just to know that someone else may be taking care of them better than I can at this time in my life. So
yeah, I was just in a really bad mental state too. And so I'm really grateful that they did end up with my grandmother, and it wasn't like we didn't ever have to go through any other means of support for them. But that would tank my mental health. It would be 2 years of that I would go through. I ended up moving to Nebraska because and that was a random thing. We literally like picked up the map and we're just going, and ended up there. So it was serendipitous because that's when everything would compound and it would just get worse and worse. He was really someone who always wanted me to be exactly where he wanted me to be. So I didn't have a phone. I didn't have my own money. I was, confined to the apartment if I wasn't working. It was awful. And it was really hard. The only way I got away from it all was that one night he had slammed the phone so hard up against the wall that it shattered. And I picked up the pieces because he was already, his habit was drinking. And so he would get belligerent drunk and then come after me when he would have a flashback. It was just a cycle. And which is interesting, and I want to share this because I talk about the domestic violence side of things and I talk about the PTSD side of things because I think it's important. Like, if he had had help, I don't feel he would have ever treated me that way. Maybe it's his personality, but there is a huge part of me because it would only happen when he would have a flashback, and it was always the same one, and a drowning victim, a little girl, and he would just snap. And the only thing that I ever had control over was whether he was almost out of alcohol or not. And so that one night, I pieced everything together. I texted my father in Texas and said, "You need to call 911. I cannot explain. Here's my address. Just do it." Because I wasn't going to be able to call 911 with him going around the apartment. So they show up. Again, it revokes the same thing. So he ends up getting expedited. And that was my opportunity to get everything together and be done. So it would be about 9 months of him being away. And I was just working constantly on myself, and it would actually lead up into the moment where I almost ended my life. I just got into a really great place. And then all of a sudden, I went to church on Mother's Day. Huge mistake because it's all baby dedication day. And so I'm just sitting there bawling, and I'm like, I am such the worthless person and human being ever on this earth. Like, I don't have my kids. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, that's the one thing you don't do in my life, and that was it. That's all it took. And that's where I would end up drinking a whole lot of vodka and taking a whole lot of aspirin. And I don't even know. I don't remember texting my dad. I don't remember much of that process. I just remember waking up in the hospital with direct dialysis to my heart because they found the bottle, they found the other bottle, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, she's going to die." And it was definitely the universe, God, creator's will for me to be here, because there is no reason on earth I should still be here outside of that. And so I woke up in the hospital and the nurse sprung out because you're locked into the bed because of the dialysis, especially because I was knocked out, because if you move too much, you can injure or puncture something. And so they were literally trying to keep my heart going and filter it faster because of what I had taken. And so she shoots up and tells me to, don't move. And I'm like, I don't even know where I'm at. So after I got over being upset that I was there, because I was like, gosh, how can I even not do this right? I was just really, I am here still. And then I was like, I am here still. And I was like, I will never be in this place again. I will work on myself. I will figure it out. And that was it. And ever since then, and that was 10 years ago. in May.
So you just like right when you got out of the hospital, it was like a totally different identity emerged?
Not quite. It would still take me a couple of years to find myself, but I remember a couple of days later, I was standing in the grocery and I had a list of like what I was going to get. Now, mind you, I didn't have a car back then, so I was like walking all the places, and so I needed to have a list. And I stood in the produce aisle and I just like, I don't know what it was, but something just came over me and it was like, I don't even know what I want to buy.
That was happening to me the past 4 days when I was all upset about my son. And it was like I would just walk into these stores and I would go blank in my mind. And I'd be like, what am I doing here? Why am I even here? Like, what am I buying? Like, I totally understand what you mean, but it wasn't even nothing like this. So I can't imagine
it's
the
still,
depth of this on top of it.
But here's the thing. Experience is all relative, right? And yes, while mine's a little bit extreme in that moment, it was still this inner understanding that I went from being a daughter to being a mother to being a wife twice. And even if you want to say victim, I don't claim that, but I never had Candice. It was always somebody else's version of me that I had to be. And so it would be this whole process of unlearning and relearning who I am. Because I really didn't know who I was. I didn't get the memo, or I just didn't get the opportunity. And so now
you were thrown into different things. I mean, yeah.
Exactly. And that's why identity work is so challenging at times. I'm actually giving a talk in Myrtle Beach in a couple weeks that it's actually talking about the identity with the past self. You know, we're real big on talking about shame and identifying with shame and guilt. And then we're also really good at identifying with anger and resentment. We're also really good at identifying with the other parts to that. So trauma and, you know, the experiences that are just heavy. But we are also really good at over-identifying with our successes in the past. You know, like thinking about who we were back here instead of who are you now? Like if you listen to how we introduce ourselves, that can tell a lot, right?
Oh yeah.
Because if you're identifying with someone you used to be, then I would ask, like, examine that. You know, is that really a truth for you now? Or are you moving into this new phase of who you are and even looking forward to who you're becoming? Because I know for me, for the longest time, I was a single mom or I was a military spouse. And, you know, I mean, I am both of those things. And yet I am also Candice. And I am a person who loves to help other people see the beauty within them and really find who they are as they're navigating all of this change. Because that's the pivotal moment in my life was when I recognized I didn't have to do it like anybody else. I didn't have to be anybody else. I just needed to find myself. And then that was enough.
Yeah. So how did you get into the work you're doing today? Like, I mean, I read something about you walking into a yoga studio, but I stopped it right then and I had to get in the car, and it was like, was that the epiphany moment? Or
so a couple of things would happen. I actually would stay in an ashram in California.
Cool.
Yeah, it was a really great experience. I was able to see that all of these different religions were coming together. It was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that, the acceptance and the love and the support. And I literally got on and I was like, I got there and I was like, what Kool-Aid is everybody drinking? It's like, there's no way they're this happy. No way they're this happy. And I just remember thinking about that, being like, okay, this is weird. But then even the animals had a calm presence. Like the deer wouldn't run off from you. They would eat right off the tree, right next to you, just chomp, chomp. Like, what's up? How you doing? And I had a really big spiritual experience with the deer there one morning, actually. But I won't go into that just yet. The experience there opened my channel for healing. I didn't have a label for it then just yet. And
how long were you there?
I was there for 2 months.
Okay.
So 2 months doing karma yogi. And it was even before I would get back into all of the things with my ex a second time. So I did that. That opened things and let me know. Now my mom's a shaman now. Like she's a nurse and a doc. Well, she has her doctorate now, but she also has been trained as a shaman. So I always thought that was the path I was going to go on. But for whatever reason, I never went down that path. I ended up, it would be about 5 or 6 years into my 5 years into my healing journey that I would find energy work. So I was working at a medical facility for animals during COVID. So during the height of COVID, I was working for a gym in Washington State. My husband's in the military, so we had to move. And we move in July. Like we weren't even sure if they were going to move us or not. We move, and that's when I found out the news about my second spouse. So I didn't share that part, that he would die by suicide in 2020. And he died really close to my birthday. So either he didn't remember when my birthday was, or it was just coincidental. I'm not sure. But I would find that as we're traveling. So that's the first like big thing, because it was a weird, complex grief, because I knew his struggle. I knew I knew that he didn't ever get the help, and that was hard. Like I went through all the questioning, like, is it my fault?
You empathized with him because you knew it wasn't him. It was a part of him that was acting out. Yeah,
exactly.
That's really, that's a major awareness that not many people have.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and it's like, so we get to Virginia, and I'm like, what am I going to do? So I go and I work for this medical facility. It was like between that and Verizon, and I was like, I have no desire to sell anybody a phone. I don't even know how to use my own. Anyways, so I would go through a ton of burnout, and I was joking with my husband while we're walking, and I'm like, I'm going to go work for a yoga studio and sit at the front desk and do 0 things.
I love that. I love that.
And he laughed at me and he's like, yeah, right. You could never do that. And I was like, I could. I was like, no, I could. And so what would happen, though, is that a management position would open up at a yoga studio 3 minutes from my house.
Stop.
I'm kidding. So I like put in my application. I even drove over there and like checked to see if they were there. And it was just a building. And I was like, oh, maybe it was a scam. And I got a little bummed. But then I found out it was just launching. And so I got to be a part of that whole process. One of my biggest projects I've ever worked on. But during that time, I met my practitioner. And in that time, I was between the COVID and then I would actually lose my kid's father in 2021.
What?
So,
I mean, I've never, like, it's just one thing after another for you. I mean,
it was for a really long time.
Like, how long was this stint going on? Like, was this like 10 years or?
Gosh, this was 15? Like my whole life. No, I'm like, I was just, but those were
one thing after another.
Because it was 2020 that I would find out about my second spouse, and then 2021 is when the kid's father would pass. And so it was just only a year, and it's complex grief. So not many people recognize that. Like, we weren't together when they passed, but we still had a history and all of the things.
You have to go and you have to deal with the children. You have to tell them, like, how do you even tell them that? Like, that's the hardest thing. Like,
we found out while we were in DC with my daughter and her friend, and it was a mess. I will just say it was really, really hard. And that was kind of where I was when I left. Like, it would be a year later that I would leave the med vet, but still, when I left, it's like I found my practitioner in a time where I needed more than therapy.
Yeah.
And I knew the moment that I had that first session, I have to share this with the world. I was like, why haven't I known about this before? Why doesn't everybody know about this? There is a peace and a connection and just a holding that I really needed. Mm-hmm. And it's been my mission ever since to share this with others.
Wow. When someone contacts you for help, what are they actually looking for when they contact you now?
Nowadays, most people are in the middle of a transitional period in their life. Most of my clients are entrepreneurs, not all, but most of them, or they're people who are in higher level jobs that have a lot of stress. And they're
super successful people.
Successful.
So that's how you, okay. So how did you get into that work? where you
Yeah,
were?
so it was a journey and a process of learning who I enjoy working with. And I noticed that, well, I thought I was going to do trauma work. I thought, oh, I've been through all this trauma. I should be doing that.
Yeah.
And then I realized, no, that's really not my area of expertise. I work with a lot of people who have trauma, but they've already been doing the work. I am not day one. Like you are in the middle of your journey and like the middle part of evolving into that next level. And so I'm the guide that comes in and basically helps you see yourself one extra layer deeper so that you can reconnect in with that soul essence and kind of live more consciously. So that's the other part of my work, is that I help the business owners especially make more conscious decisions. Like, what is your intuition saying? Like, how are you? I mean, yes, we're going to look at the business and think about all these things, but like, what's the intention and purpose? Where are you trying to take this? But more so, before we even do the business stuff, it is all about the personal alignment, because what we forget is that our external world is everything that's going on internally.
Right. As within, so without. That's what I keep telling everybody. It's a mirror, guys. This whole thing, like, yeah.
It totally is. And that's the thing, is like when you can learn how to look at yourself honestly and be with yourself, that's where the true work comes in. That's where the magic happens, because that's where all of the transformation is possible.
I mean, you work with a lot of high performers and entrepreneurs, like you said. What patterns do you see over and over again in them?
Confidence. It's always confidence. And actually, the question that comes up the most often, who am I to do this?
Really? When they're that successful, you would think it'd be the total opposite. Like they had to have the confidence to get there.
Nope.
How does that work?
It's all of the, when we have a feeling that we're not worthy to receive, that's when we feel like we have to question, who am I to do this? And those woundings come in from all different areas of life. It doesn't have to always be childhood. It can be any area of life. But as you move up, if you're not doing the inner work, you're holding on to all of the old energy that you used to, survive right on and resonate with. But also what happens is your capacity is the same, because you're holding all of that. And so then you don't feel like you can handle it, or subconsciously.
Yeah.
And then
you sabotage it.
You sabotage it. And what do? You get to this. Yep. and it's a cycle that happens with so many people. Yeah. So many people self-sabotage because they haven't built the capacity to receive, because they don't feel worthy to receive.
I'm still there. And that's why you're in my life too. That's why we did a session already, the first one. And I'm still like, yeah. So I have that thought all the time, like, who am I to do this? Like, who am I to write this book? Who am I to... So where does that belief get installed? Like, what is the word, I don't feel worthy? What's the root of it?
So the root of it is a little bit of instability of your foundation. So like the root, and being able to kind of root back into your basics. Like, who are you at the end of the day? And the unworthiness comes from a measurement. When you think about it, we've been conditioned to measure ourselves since we were kids. Yeah. Remember the star board?
Yeah.
Like, go put a sticker if you did well. Imprints, right? Whenever you're going to get a job, your resume, that's basically a validation of who you are.
Your grades.
Your grades, yeah. I forgot that one. Your grades.
I was average.
Yeah.
Because I put in very very, very little work. But yeah, I was always average at that. So yeah, so I feel like, why would I be able to talk to people that are successful like you? And you know what I mean? Like, I guess that's what it was when I began this, right? And yeah, and it's starting to normalize now, and I'm getting into it, and I'm noticing, maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing, because I didn't know I would ever do something like this, right?
Yeah.
So...
Well, I didn't either. For the longest time, I held on to the belief, because I didn't finish high school. So I got my GED.
Real? You just keep shocking me every 5 seconds with, I would have never thought that.
No, I was at 17. I thought I was going into the military. My mom pulled me out and said, all right, do it. And then I got injured. And so my whole life changed in a day. But if my life hadn't changed, I wouldn't have my kids.
Right. Why do you think people keep repeating the patterns that they already recognize?
Because they haven't done the inner work.
See, I've done a ton of inner work, like years, 17 years I've been doing this, and I can like see myself doing the thing that I know I shouldn't be doing still. And I feel powerless to the old self at times, and I like give into it, if that makes sense.
Well, a lot of that is comfortability and
Just
safety.
normal.
It's well, and when you think about it, going and stepping out and doing something big, you have no concrete evidence of safety, of security, of what's next. And that's where our brain and our brain keeps us from doing a lot of this work. But then in your lived experience, if there's any root cause reason, now this could be this lifetime, it could be other lifetimes, right? It's not only this lifetime, but in this lifetime, if you can find that root cause, then you can start to look into, okay, why am I holding myself back? People fear success way more than they fear failure.
Because of the responsibility?
Yep. Responsibility, the visibility.
Yeah, that's scary. Why do you think that is? Why is that so scary for people to be seen?
Because if you've never been seen in the past, it's an unfamiliar feeling.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're not wired to be seen by like millions of people, right? Like, so you kind of have to work up to that and like nervous system wise. Like,
yeah, I feel like it's a combination of things. So when you, what I would say is being seen brings up all the old woundings. So anytime you were seen as a kid, if you were minimized as a kid, being called average, that's hard to hear as a kid who wants to maybe be more, or maybe you didn't care, who knows, but
I did. I cared.
Yeah. So
I always had that.
You know, so being seen as yourself didn't feel safe.
Right.
Didn't feel accomplished. But a lot of it just roots back to these core woundings that we've just carried and we maybe not have pinpointed all the way.
So more alignment. That's what you're saying. Yeah, more inner work. I'm so tired of the work.
See, I hear that too. I hear that all the time. Those are the clients that I work with.
The ones that are like, I'm tired of
doing this work. Can we be done yet? And I'm like, yes, and.
What's one thing you wish every entrepreneur understood about themselves?
That they're capable of doing so much more than they realize, and that they are divinely supported always.
I love it. I love it. Now, it's interesting. You're holding like a men's event.
Yes.
You are like the most unique little thing ever. It's like, what? Okay, how did you get into that? What's going on with that? And that's coming up, right?
Yeah, it's coming up September 25th here in Charlotte. We have some pretty big headline speakers coming in too, so it's going to be an event to remember for sure. And it's going to be a community. We're building a community. Well, it came from my male clients. So all of my male clients, 3 of them actually, in 1 week were like, we love what you're creating for women, but we're not going to create a brunch. And like they are just like, yeah, no, not happening. And I said, okay, well, tell me more. And so I gathered information. Well, then that Friday, my friend Trevor reaches out and he's like, I love what you're creating for women. Can we create something? And I'm like, sure, why not? Guess what happened this week? This is a sign. And then we started building it. And that is just the beginning of it. And the whole point about it is that we're really big on associating mental health with trauma. Right. Instead of mental wellness and mental health being preventative. So the conversations, while we will have some that are geared towards suicide prevention or having those kind of conversations, a lot of it's about talking about where you're at. Like, how do you be a better human? How do you be, a lot of men want to be a better spouse, a better father, a better even son. And they don't necessarily vocalize that, so they internalize it. And then when they internalize it, it just compounds over time. And that's why men are 4 times as likely to die by death by suicide than women.
Because they hold it all in. Yeah.
And men struggle with the same things women do. They just struggle differently. And I can tell you that working with both men and women, I see the same identity, I want to call it crisis. I think it's more, identity seeking and letting go of the past and then feeling enough and having the pathway forward, even having that clarity. And so they struggle the same. They just hold it all in.
Which is really bad because it can manifest in so many different ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're working with men and helping them to be able to process it. And that's amazing. That's amazing.
Thank you.
What beliefs had to completely die for you to become this version of yourself?
I had to see the past version of myself as worthy because for the longest time, I was so embarrassed by her. I was angry. I did not want anybody to know about my past. I was so just, that would have been the one thing that I wanted 0 people to know about me. And yet I had to realize, and somebody said this to me, they're like, the past version of you went through every hardship so that you don't have to. And I was like, oh.
That just hit me in the face. Wow. I just love you. I'm obsessed. What's next? You've built an incredible body of work already, but what season do you feel yourself stepping into now?
So one of the so I channel in my sessions and I channel for myself. And one of the messages that I received is that I will step into even more conscious work into the later half, like probably like October timeframe. So the latter half of the year, and be more so working with clients who are, again, in that same transitional period, but also helping them develop their intuitive connection. So I already do this a little bit now where I call it relearning the language of the soul. So when we can tune into that energy flow, then we can start to listen, we can start to feel, we can start to see whichever your gift is. But helping them, again, kind of cultivate that practice, because I'm really trying to help people see that just yes, you can go get a massage and that's great, right? You can go get an energy session and that's great. But how about developing it into a practice that you show up for, that you can come into, that you can develop and be a part of? And then sure, I can come in and help and be supplemental, but how can I teach you to come in and not see this as a way to fix you, but a way to connect with you?
Love this. Oh my gosh, you are something else. If someone listening feels they are in a chapter of their life like you were in yourself, what would you want them to hear from this conversation? What's like the one thing you want them to take with you from this conversation?
I would say that my favorite quote is, it's never too late to be what you might have been. And it's because we can anchor into anything new. We can. And if you're in a season where it just feels really hard and challenging, it can be really hard to think that you're supported. And yet you really are. Even when I look back, I mean, I was definitely supported. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
And so just knowing that, reach out to people when you need to, connect where you need to, and keep going. Just keep going. There were so many times I wanted to quit on my business, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship. I wanted to quit so many times. And I was like, all right, am I meant to do this? And then I figured out it was me and I needed to do some more work. Dang it. And so that's what I would say is just keep going. Pivot where you need to, but keep going. You wouldn't have it within you to do if you weren't here to do it.
I saw something I heard something the other day. It said, when you're at 40%, or when you're at you're about to quit, you're only at 40% capacity. So if you remember that every time you're about to quit, just know, hey, you got 60% left in you. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's awesome. I love that, actually.
Yeah. I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense, because you can we sell ourselves out so quickly, because we want comfort.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
Right.
Wow. I just want to thank you for coming on here and being so vulnerable and raw. And I know how difficult it is I'm doing this in my book. My first book is doing this, where I'm telling all my dark stuff about me that I've tried to hide for my whole life. Right. And not many people are willing to do that in this world.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank you for being one of those people that is willing to go there and, show people that you could be at the darkest of the dark, but if you don't stop, you can become one of the lightest of the light, right?
Yeah, thank you.
And I just appreciate you, and I am so excited to watch your journey and just everything. I have chills even like saying this to you. So
Thank you.
yeah,
It's so interesting. Thank you for having me. And being able to be open now has been challenging. It's still hard every time I tell the story. It's still a challenge. And yet somebody reaches out to me and like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that it's not just me.
So now it's time for our mirror moment segment. We just added these to the show. And if there's one affirmation or intention that you would want to give yourself, what would that be? Just goals.
You are divinely guided always, and never give up. And you are powerful.